I call on members of the Toronto Hydro Corporation, Anthony Haines and Andrew Sasso, to come forward. Good morning, gentlemen. Please have a seat. Make yourselves comfortable. You're going to have 5 minutes for your presentation, and that will be followed by 3 minutes each from each party caucus. And please begin by stating your names and begin any time.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Anthony Haines. I'm appearing before you as the CEO and President of Toronto Hydro Corporation this morning. I also am the Chair of the Ontario Energy Association and past Chair of the Canadian Electricity Association. My 30-year career spans both natural gas and electricity distribution in various jurisdictions in Canada. Toronto Hydro serves about 3 million people. On average, we interact with these customers about 3,500 times a day through telephone, through electronic services we provide, social media, and community events. And many of my comments today are shaped by the feedback that they've provided to us. As CEO, I'm often asked what keeps me up at night. And I think you would agree that ours is a complex industry. Electricity brings comfort to so many of our lives and drives our economy. For our workers, working around old and aging infrastructure, this force can also be a deadly force. And therefore, the safety of our employees and the customers that we serve will always be my #1 priority. And on this, I'm proud of our safety record, but we will continue to put our full efforts into ensuring the safety of our workers and the public. But my second concern, and the one I'm here to talk to you about today, is finding the right balance between the company's infrastructure investment needs and our customers' ability to pay. Our diverse customer mix makes finding this balance extraordinarily difficult. There is no simple solution, and as I talk to my colleagues around the world, it's a challenge that we all share and face together. Earlier this year, the Premier and the Minister of Energy engaged me and other industry leaders and asked us for our thoughts on how to strike the right balance between investing in our necessary infrastructure and the affordability of the bill. And I want to thank the Premier and the Minister for this collaborative approach. My message was simple, and it is simple this morning. If we are going to provide additional financial relief, let's first of all do it in a way that will allow us to continue to invest in our infrastructure in order to keep the lights on and in order to grow the growing needs of this community. Second, provide additional relief to those that need it most. Our conversations were frank, they were spirited, and at the end of the day, I believe that led to the Fair Hydro Plan that achieved both of these objectives. Toronto Hydro delivers electricity. When we deliver electricity, we don't just mean keeping the lights on. In Toronto today, you woke up to your alarm clock, you perhaps made coffee this morning, you came to work on a subway, and in fact probably came to this room by way of an elevator. And Toronto Hydro makes all of these things happen. But finding the right balance is becoming increasingly more difficult when we think about our infrastructure. There are 3 reasons for this. First of all, our aging assets. Approximately 1/3 of our assets are either past their expected life or near the end of their life. And that means that they could fail at any moment. Second, we are going through unprecedented growth in this city. There are over 130 buildings under construction in Toronto today. These range from 40 to 100 stories high. We are literally connecting vertical communities, and this is unprecedented in Toronto Hydro's history. And third, our low-carbon economy will increasingly be driven by electricity as a fuel of choice. Today, we are about midway on a $2 billion 5-year plan. However, I want to caution you. At this investment level, we are not yet at a sustainment level for our grid. In fact, our engineers have identified $10 billion of additional capital investment needed to sustain our electricity grid into the future. I do have some good news. Our conservation programs have been very successful. They enable our customers to reduce their usage and therefore their bill. And conservation has been a critical a way of us to simply take pressure off the grid. So in conclusion, I want to show my support for the Act. I believe that it lowers bills and slows the increase down while allowing infrastructure investments to continue, and it provides relief to those that need it most. The social program costs are being put on the tax base where I think it is most appropriate, and I look forward to continued dialogue as the regulations.
Thank you very much. Our first questions for you are from our PC caucus, Mr. Walker.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for attending.
Yes.
Do you believe this actually offers a solution or a stopgap?
I think it's a solution.
Long term?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on why you think that?
Well, we're going through an unprecedented reinvestment in our grid, not just in the distribution component, but in all components of our grid. And these, of course, have a large, lumpy capital investment requirement up front. So this Act, in my mind, helps to smooth those costs and make it more affordable for our customers to bear in the short term and in the medium term.
Would you agree that rates will increase after a short-term smoothing of these rates?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that there will be an impact down the road, although we haven't done a lot of modeling around it. We haven't done really any. But I am also trying to balance that with the fact that I'm also excited about things that we're looking at, the renewal of the way the power is procured, the other efficiencies we're finding in the industry. So I'm not sure of the impact it's going to have in the future, because I think that we're going to continue to find some efficiencies.
So I'm not certain, maybe I'm missing a point here. I'm not certain how this Act is going to do those things for you. This is talking about taking our rates and actually lowering them for a short period, borrowing $25 to $43 billion, which is all going to have to be paid back. So I'm not certain how that is a solution other than moving the...
Yeah, there's no question that this is having the effect of smoothing costs out, and therefore there'll be a recovery of those costs in the future. What I'm saying is there, in fact, may be some offsetting savings in the future, so it's hard to know exactly what impact this will have over a long term.
So the debt retirement charges, we're told, going to come back at 4 times higher than what it was. Again, I'm struggling to correlate how you would believe that this is a good thing for ratepayers, taxpayers, whatever term we want to use. There's only one person paying the bill when we're doing that and we're increasing our debt load significantly.
Yeah, and it really is, what I'm saying is we are taking some of these lumpy costs that are at the front end of the investment cycle. Those investments will, of course, have a long life to them, and we're spreading those out over a longer period of time. And so therefore, overall, I believe over the generation, the full life of the asset, the customers will benefit from this approach.
So you're suggesting, I think in your comments, that a third of your infrastructure is at end of life.
That's right.
Would it not be more advisable to take this borrowing and put it towards your natural asset than to try to smooth out in a short-term rate, knowing they're going to be higher after 4 years?
I suppose there's many ways to spend the money, if you will. I'm satisfied that this approach meets both Toronto Hydro's needs and our capacity to continue to invest in the grid while helping the customers to make their bills more affordable.
Have you incurred any extra costs for the HST rebate being put on the bills?
There are some systems costs. They're largely people that we would have under our employment already that had to make some systems changes. The most costs are fairly low in terms of their levels. When I look at
Thank you. Our next questions for you, the next 3 minutes goes to the NDP caucus. Mr. Tabbins.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Haines, you referred to $10 billion further in capital costs that are going to have to be dealt with over the next while. Are we talking, what period of time are we talking about rate hikes to deal with that?
Yeah, so let me give you just a couple of facts. So I talked about 1/3 of the assets. It takes about $1 billion to move 1%. So, these are large capital investments that are needed over a long period of time. So we've identified the next generation, if you will, of capital investments. The pace of that will be determined, of course, by the Ontario Energy Board, which will determine not only the prudency, but the pace of those investments. And so those decisions are still ahead of us. We're investing today at about $1 million to $2 million a day. I would think that investment level would come up a bit, but it would be at that sort of pace that I would expect to see us invest.
So I'm sure you're aware that the reduction in price from the Fair Hydro Plan ends in 4 years. And the Financial Accountability Officer today noted that rates will then start going up at almost 7% a year for a decade. And the cost to deal with these capital issues will be on top of that. So we could well be in a situation where we're looking at bills going up 10% a year, starting in 4 years. Do you see that as viable?
Yeah, that was my comments earlier about the fact that I understand that those are the numbers. I haven't read the report, of course, this morning, but I'm saying that I also see opportunity to lower the bills because of finding more efficiency. So whether those will be the net effect of the bill in the future, hard to say at this point.
So have you been lowering the bills at Toronto Hydro over the last decade?
We found plenty of efficiencies. The last report that we sent to the Ontario Energy Board found about $2 billion worth of savings over the last decade. So there have been significant efficiencies found in the operation of the grid.
I understand that argument. Have you been reducing your rates in Toronto?
No. No,
Okay.
we increased the rates for two main drivers, the capital investments and then our operating costs. Our operating costs have been below inflation, offset by higher capital investments.
So even with the efficiencies you found, your rates have continued to rise.
That's right. The capital investments have continued to be.
And then on top of that, we'll have almost 7% a year just from this one element alone.
Yeah, I can't comment on the future rate component.
And are you aware that in the numbers that the government gave the FAO, they saw the Ontario Electricity Support Program not being funded out of the general revenue of the province after 4 years?
Yeah, I haven't seen the report. That's the report that just came out this morning. I haven't had
Yeah.
an opportunity to be briefed on it yet, so it's a little hard to
Thank you very
answer.
much. And our final questions for you come from our government side. Mr. Delaney.
Thank you very much, Chair. One-third of assets near or past the end of their planned life. Could you give us some examples of some of these assets, and if you know
Yeah.
them off the top of your head, their replacement cost?
Yeah, so our assets, I'd say if we stretched our wires out, they would cross Canada 3 or 4 times. So we're talking about a substantial volume of distribution assets here in the city. Some of those are above ground, so you would see things like the old box construction. That's where you have a pole and arms coming out on the side of it. That is a very unsafe technology, and so a major focus for us is to replace that. Others that you perhaps wouldn't see but are critical to us is our underground system, which serves the downtown area. That's a lead-based system and an environmental sensitive product that we need to renew and replace. So it's those sorts of investments that may not be obvious to you when you're moving around your life in the city, but those assets are well past their life.
Would those be your highest priorities among the some $10 billion of asset replacements?
I don't know if I could say that they're the highest priorities. We have about 45 portfolios of assets, and all of them have an important role in the delivery of electricity. So we approach it such that we look for the best use of the funds we have available to us, the biggest impact and benefit to our customers, but it's across all the portfolios.
Mm-hmm. How do Toronto Hydro's retail prices compare with other jurisdictions, both now and after the planned 25% reduction?
We're certainly mindful of the rates and the pressure that it puts on our customers. When we look around North America, for example, we're very competitive when we compare against other big urban centers, so they're certainly well in line with places like Chicago and New York and
So you'd
LA
be
and
lower
other
than
places.
Chicago, lower than New
Yes.
York, lower than Boston,
Yeah.
lower than San Francisco.
That's right.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for appearing before this committee.